You've done this before. You built a mob farm. Maybe it took an afternoon. You dug the drop shaft, counted the blocks, got the water channels working right. You tested it, fixed it, probably died twice in the process. Then you walked away. You came back 30 minutes later. The chest was full. Bones, arrows, XP, all of it just sitting there waiting for you. And you didn't do a single thing. Here's the part nobody ever told you. That exact mechanic, the thing you figured out in a video game, is the same principle that separates people who build wealth from people who just earn money their entire lives. And almost nobody knows which one they're doing. Right now, more than half of Americans live paycheck to paycheck, not because they're lazy. Most of them work incredibly hard. They did exactly what they were told. Get good grades, get a job, show up, put in the hours, save what you can. But nobody explained the farm. Because here's what that system actually is. Work hard, get paid, repeat. That's not a wealth system. That's a trade. You trade your time for money. 1 hour in, 1 paycheck out. And the flaw in that trade is this. The moment you stop showing up, everything stops. Completely. Immediately. Economists call this active income, and there's nothing wrong with it. It pays your bills, it feeds your family. But it has one structural flaw that almost nobody says out loud. You are the system, which means you're also the only thing keeping the system alive. A mob farm doesn't work that way. A mob farm runs whether you're online or not. Here's what a mob farm actually does. You build a structure, mobs spawn because conditions are right. They move toward an edge, fall a calculated distance, far enough to bring them to one hit, not far enough to kill them outright. A hopper collects everything at the bottom. You designed the conditions. The game engine runs the rest. Wealthy people figured out the same thing about money. Not that they worked harder, not that they got luckier, but that money, like the Minecraft game engine, moves and compounds whether you're watching it or not. It flows toward return. It generates more of itself when placed inside the right structure. The concept is usually called passive income, but that phrase has been so thoroughly hijacked by internet gurus selling $97 courses that most people hear it and immediately check out. So forget the phrase. Think about the mechanic. Income that doesn't stop when you do. Here's why almost nobody builds this, and this is the part most financial content skips entirely. The reason isn't ignorance, it isn't laziness, it's something far more fundamental. Your brain is working against you. Evolutionary psychologists have a term for it, hyperbolic discounting. It means humans instinctively value things available right now far more than things in the future, even when the future thing is objectively massively more valuable. If someone offered you $20 today or $50 in 2 months, most people take the 20. The logical choice is obvious, but logic isn't how we're built, and it goes deeper than that. Researchers at Princeton ran a brain imaging study and found something genuinely surprising. When people imagined their future selves, the brain activity looked more like thinking about a complete stranger than thinking about themselves. Literally, the neurons that fired when subjects pictured themselves decades from now were closer to the neurons that fired when they thought about a random person they'd never met. Your future self is a stranger to your brain, and nobody feels financially generous toward strangers. This isn't a character flaw. This is millions of years of survival wiring where waiting often meant dying, running inside a world that now requires completely different thinking. Your ancestors who grabbed the immediate reward survived. The ones who didn't wait didn't always make it. That instinct kept humanity alive for 30,000 years. It is also exactly what keeps people financially stuck today. This is where the Minecraft analogy becomes almost uncomfortably accurate. You know what happens when you put a looting 3 sword on your mob farm? Same number of mobs, same design, same farm, but suddenly you're getting 3 or 4 times the drops. Compound interest is that enchantment. Here's the actual math. If you invest $1,000 at 10% annual return, which is close to what the S&P 500 has historically averaged over the past century, after year 1, you have $1,100. In year 2, you earn 10% on $1,100, not on the original 1,000. Every year, you earn returns on your returns. That still sounds slow until time does what time does. That same $1,000 left completely alone for 30 years at 10% becomes over $17,000. You added nothing, you did nothing, you simply didn't touch it. Warren Buffett is worth over $100 billion, and the vast majority of that wealth accumulated after he turned 50, not because he suddenly became smarter, but because the systems he had been quietly building for decades reached the point where compound growth alone was generating more each year than most people earn in a lifetime. He once said that someone is sitting in the shade today because someone planted a tree a long time ago. Most people are looking for shade. Almost nobody is planting the tree. In Minecraft, before you build a farm, you need three things: the right materials, the right location, and a design that actually works. Real-world wealth systems are built exactly the same way. The materials are capital, money that isn't immediately consumed. This requires a gap between what you earn and what you spend. There's no shortcut here. You have to mine before you can build. The early grind is real, and it's necessary. The location is how you hold your investments. Tax-advantaged accounts exist specifically to protect your money from being eroded before the compounding can do its work. The details vary depending on where you live, but in most countries, these structures are available to working people, and a significant number of people who have access to them have never fully used them. They're walking past the chest every single month. The design is what goes inside those structures. Decades of independent research consistently shows that broad, low-cost index funds, which simply own a small piece of a large number of companies at once, outperformed the vast majority of professional fund managers over long time horizons. The boring farm beats the active player almost every time. Not because the index fund is clever, because it removes the human from the equation. And humans, as we just established, are not naturally wired for patient, long-term thinking. The farm doesn't need you second-guessing it every week. It needs you to build it once and walk away. In 1720, Isaac Newton, one of the most analytically gifted minds in recorded history, watched the South Sea Company stock rise. He invested, he made a profit, he pulled out early. Then he watched it keep going up, so he got back in with everything. Then it crashed. Newton lost approximately 20,000 pounds, a significant portion of his life savings, trying to time a market that didn't care how intelligent he was. He reportedly said afterwards, "I can calculate the movement of stars, but not the madness of men." The lesson isn't that Newton was a bad investor. The lesson is that the farm doesn't require genius. It requires patience, consistent, boring, leave-it-alone patience. And patience, it turns out, is the rarest thing there is. Ronald Read was a janitor in Brattleboro, Vermont. Before that, he pumped gas. He never earned a high salary, never launched a company, never made a dramatic bet that paid off. When he died in 2014, his estate was worth nearly $8 million. His approach, according to people who knew him, was almost aggressively simple. He spent less than he earned. He bought shares of stable, established companies. He never sold them. He let the farm run for decades, quietly, without drama, without anyone knowing it was happening. He didn't beat the market with brilliance. He just never stopped the farm from running. For most of human history, the tools to do what Ronald Read did were locked behind expensive brokers and exclusive access. Today, the same systems are available to almost anyone with a phone and a bank account. The barrier has never been lower. The only question left is the same one it has always been. Are you going to build the farm or keep hand mining until you run out of time?